So technically the Knights of Gwyn won the poll, but the day I started recording, the poll was tied. I did a second poll in my Discord server, and that one also tied. I was asked to do both runs by one member of the Discord, and the viewer that actually suggested the Knights of Gwyn run then suggested I flip a coin to see which one I'd do first. Both of these were good ideas, so I flipped a coin and JJK won. Then after I finished 3 days of character building and researching mods available on console that would help to more accurately replicate the curse techniques and abilities of the JJK cast, I saw that the Knights of Gwyn won after all. Fuck. In any event, I'll be doing that run in my next Baldur's Gate 3 video, but for this run, we're gonna be seeing if the Jujutsu Kaisen Tokyo School first years can beat Baldur's Gate 3. Originally this was gonna be a permadeath run because I thought that that'd be a cool and difficult challenge to attempt, but I died a fuck ton right out of the gate in Act 1, so I scrapped that idea real quick. Maybe I'll try again in the Knights of Gwyn run. I start the run by building Jujutsu Kaisen main protagonist, Itadori Yuji. I'll also be using this run as an opportunity to do my first ever Durge run, which I was super excited for as a fan of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. The Durge and the Emperor are gonna be our stand-ins for Sukuna here, since the Dark Urge is a voice in your head that tries to get you to do bad things, and the Emperor is, at least to some degree, a bad guy whom the MC has to share a consciousness with, similar to Yuji's relationship with Sukuna. By the way, if you see the color of my dice changing throughout the run, it's because I was constantly changing the color of the die if I rolled poorly. If you see a color often, it usually means I rolled well with it. Anyway, after investigating this strange egg thingy here and getting blown up, a sign of the scuffed run to come, I save us and resist Sukuna's temptations to mutilate it, gaining this little buddy as an ally for battles to come. Then I largely just play the Nautiloid section as per normal and escape, and then I send Shart to camp and create the second character of our original JJK dynamic duo, to help acclimate Yuji to the world of Jujutsu sorcery and save him from the nasty cursed spirits attacking him, everyone's favorite character that definitely nobody calls a bum or a fraud or potential man, Megumi Fushiguro. Megumi's astral guardian is, of course, Mahoraga, the creature he summons to defeat his enemies, but that also fucking caves his skull in, also not entirely dissimilar to the Emperor. Together we attempted to destroy the grade 3 curses lingering nearby, but they fucking killed us. Yeah, I decided not to restart the run here and just continued on Dishonor mode solely because I couldn't be bothered to create Yuji, Sukuna, Megumi, and Mahoraga in the character creator again. Sure hope that doesn't come back to bite me in an ironic moment of karma later. And also barely anything even happened yet, so restarting wouldn't really make that much of a difference save for wasting my time. We reunite with all the OG crew, send them all to the camp, and then I added our third squad mate to the team, Nobara Kugisaki. Now that the shonen anime trifecta of the happy friendly MC, the moody edgy rival, and the girl is complete, the real game can begin. Our first assignment as a team is destroying those assholes who ended our honor mode run, and this time we beat the shit out of them. Megumi doesn't really have any of his powers yet, but Yuji has Divergent Fist since the Order of the Ascetic Mystic has a feature called Kinetic Blows that allows their unarmed strikes to deal additional force damage, with the added force damage here being the delayed cursed energy from Yuji's initial punch. And Nobara has a cantrip called Pain Puppet that's literally just her straw doll resonance ability. She pulls out a doll, stabs it with a pin, and the targeted creature takes necrotic damage. It's fucking awesome that I was able to find something literally one-to-one with her actual power. When fighting the goblins at the Druid Grove Gate, Eridan's whole team died, but that's okay because that guy fucking sucks anyway. My whole team made it out fine, and Nobara finished off the last goblin with Resonance. After talking with Zevlor, I made my way down to the Druid's Grotto, where I saved Arabella despite Sukuna trying to get me to kill her, and then I met up with Nettie, who said she could help us with our Sukuna problem. Unfortunately, right before speaking to her, Sukuna wrested control from Yuji, and we fucking skinned a bird alive. Nettie sends us to save Halsin, but first, along the way, we come across Andric and Brina, who I tell that I'm not a true soul, so they attack me. Megumi finally has his 10 Shadows technique, which he uses to summon a Shikigami to help us, and Yuji, Megumi, and Nobara take out the squishy but dangerous spellcaster Brina before then moving on to the less dangerous but tankier and hard to hit Andric. They said something about a grade 2 curse spirit nearby that attacked their friend, but apparently it was just a mother Shikigami trying to protect her baby, so we leave them in peace. We get Scratch and then we head into the Blighted Village and talk our way past the lookouts. The first thing I do when I get there is save poor Barkus from the goblins bullying him at the windmill and cut him down so that he can escape. Sure hope I don't forget to save him in the Underdark later. Also, I made sure to recruit Karlach and send her to the camp while I was in the area. Since Anders and his fake Paladins of Tyr were right down the road, I also decided to take them on too, 3v3. Because of some level ups we had gotten leading up to this encounter, Megumi had unlocked his divine dogs in the form of 2 summonable shadow familiars from the light and dark psionic discipline from Mystic, and let me tell ya, they definitely helped. Since the game is geared for a team of 4, the lack of action economy hurts in some encounters and is definitely noticeable on Honor Mode, but Megumi then flipping that action economy on its head with 3+ summons is going to be our lifesaver for this run, I could already tell. Megumi did get knocked out, which caused the Divine Dogs to disappear, but at that point, the damage was already done. We finished off Anders, Nobara took out Sorel, and finally Yuji clocked Trin like she was competing in the culling game. Then, feeling myself after pretty easily handling Anders and his crew and looking for a true test of my combat abilities, I headed down into the cave under the village and take on the Face Spider Matriarch, and boy was I a fucking idiot for doing that. I don't know if it was raw stupidity, overconfidence, or both, but son, this is Honor Mode and I'm already fighting with 75% of a full party. I got fucking creamed. I got beaten so badly so many times that I just kept reloading trying a bunch of different tactics to try to find something that actually worked. At this point, I tried to just send Megumi's Divine Dogs in to fight the Face Spider Matriarch solo, and even that didn't work for various different reasons. I don't even think it was actually that many attempts. It was probably around 5 or 10 tries. It's just that even a single attempt took so damn long that by the time I had the winning strategy to just have Megumi's Divine Dogs spam their strength drain on the Face Spider Matriarch and then have everyone else come in and clean up the remaining adds, I was just fucking done with it. Screw the permadeath run, maybe I'll try it next time with the Knights of Gwyn run. Now, I don't really know how I knew this, how I was as certain as I was. Maybe it's from playing this game so many times on Honor Mode, but I knew that if I could beat the Face Spider Matriarch, I could beat Auntie Ethel, and since that would net me some more greatly desired XP, I set off to her bog to take her down. Before heading in and facing her, I've never fought the Addled Frog with the ridiculous AC and projectile deflecting ability before, so I wanted to fight that first. I gave Nobara Cloud of Daggers as one of her spells to represent her hairpin technique, where she scatters her nails somewhere and then activates them to destroy whatever's there. And since it's not a projectile spell and guarantees damage, I used it here and it actually dropped him to half health and then finished him off on his turn. Of course with help from Megumi's Toad, a literal conjured frog from the Find Familiar spell. We've got some heavy hitters on the team. Ethel of course got upset at us for trying to help Mayrina, and she reveals that she was actually a cursed spirit just pretending to be a human, almost like Kenjaku. We try to jump her, but like always she runs away and we have to deal with her minions. The fight was surprisingly draining, and I wanted to face Ethel at full strength, so we took a long rest. While at camp, a tiefling named Alfira, a bard from the Elturel refugees, wanted to join my adventuring party, which we allowed her to do. Then I wake up a little while later drenched in blood because Sukuna took over and killed the fucking shit out of her and ripped her fucking eyeballs out and also maybe her tongue. After leaving camp and heading back to the bog, we then fight our way down to Ethel, and we decided to lead the battle with a surprise attack. The first time I messed up when we actually ended up getting cooked, but the second time Nobara led with Hairpin, which prevented Ethel from burning Mayrina's cage, and from there it was all a matter of managing her clones and racking up damage on her. Megumi's humanoid Shikigami, his divine dogs, and Nue definitely helped to allow us to keep up with Ethel in terms of action economy, but we also did pretty good damage, and we were able to survive her attacks relatively well. Thanks to Megumi's 10 Shadow Shikigami, Yuji throwing hands and being able to tank, and Nobara's ranged attacks like Resonance and her Straw Doll technique where she uses her hammer to hit cursed energy imbued nails at her enemies, we got Ethel to try to make a deal pretty quickly, but we of course turned her down, and in the following rounds, we took her out and saved Mayrina. Way easier than the Phase Spider Matriarch. With everything near the Blighted Village done, I decided to save the Goblin Camp for when I was a bit stronger, or at least a little more confident, and instead decided to go back to the Risen Road and do the Gnoll fight. With Flint on our side, we made pretty short work of the Gnolls attacking the Zhentarim guys, and though we suffered a casualty, we were able to also take out Flint as well. By the way, no particular reason I'm saying this now, but I just wanted to mention that I've completed the JJK manga, so this video might contain spoilers for anime-onlys. Viewers' discretion is advised. Anyway, at Joaquin's Rest, Yuji saved Floric, and then we went to the Zent base where we freed this enslaved artist guy through a great many attempts at this intimidation check, and then got our reward for helping the goobers that were getting attacked by the Gnolls. Also, since I was only, like, 30 feet away from the mountain pass, I went ahead and cleared the path to the crush of the Githyanki blocking the way there by convincing them that we were good little boys and girls that definitely didn't intend to kill their Inquisitor for XP. With really nowhere else left to go, I stopped avoiding the inevitable and went to the Goblin Camp, except psych, it was to get to the passage to the Underdark for more XP. In fairness, we did jump and kill Priestess Gut to enter said passage, but I wouldn't really call the encounter a fight like the Minthara and Ragzlin fights. This was really more of a DPS check. Once I made it down to the Underdark, I took on the easier available encounter first, taking on the Minotaurs near the Selene outpost. This was actually pretty easy since one was way further away, so we just ganged up on the one close by, and by the time the second one had made it over, we finished off Buddy and moved on to him. He died just as easily, but then it was on to one of the trickier boss fights here, the Beholder. I rested before the fight, and while resting, I met Sukuna. Huh, weird. He seems like a pretty cool guy. Super normal and chill. Definitely not the kind of guy that would make you skin a bird, or violently murder a new friend, or maybe commit a small genocide. Well, Beholder fight was extremely difficult, but only in the really hard single or couple of attempts kind of way, not the 4 hours of retries kind of way like the Phase Spider Matriarch was. It kept on paralyzing people and making them attack us, but we just then attacked them to turn them against the Beholder, and eventually we overwhelmed it with action economy advantage. Next on the chopping block was the Boulette, but I'll be honest here. I just do not have the damage to get past its 100 points of temporary HP because its ability Diamond Scales negates any damage less than 15 while it has said temp HP. I can barely hit 15 or up with anything, and certainly not consistently enough to kill the thing in 2 rounds before it burrows away and heals back up to full HP, so I just decided to use good old Barrelmancy, and my small act of terrorism was enough to put the Boulette down. After speaking to the Myconids, we went down with Gluck to the beach, killed off all the Duragar there, and then went to do the Kuatoa fight since I thought fighting a bunch of level 2s would be free XP. It was not. The only real AoE I've got is Nobara's hairpin, and it's really not enough to make much of a difference here, and even with the action economy boost we get from Megumi's Shikigami, we're still woefully outnumbered. Eventually I just settled with killing the Red Cap for deceiving the Kuatoa, and then converting the Kuatoa to Yuji's religion, which is statistically probably either Shintoism or Buddhism, so good for them. I also used the tadpoles I had collected so far to give Yuji and Nobara Luck of the Far Realms, which will act as our Black Flash in this run, specifically the ability to get a critical hit. Not really willing to move on to Grimforge yet, I decided it was finally time to finish off the Goblin Camp, so we headed back to fight Minthara. After shoving one of her Gobbo guards down the bottomless pit, I had Megumi's Divine Dogs attack Minthara and her little buddy over there, while Nobara hit nails at them from afar, and Yuji dealt with any guards unfortunate enough to witness this assault. The Divine Dogs destroyed Minthara, but unfortunately we had to lethally take her down, even though I like to knock her out if I can, so that we can recruit her later in Act 2. Oh well, sucks to suck, nerd. I basically did the same thing with Dror Ragzlin, where I just sicked the Divine Dogs on him, except he's got more weak little ads with him, so I had to devote more resources to taking them out before they used their number advantage to overwhelm me. Ragzlin ended up knocking Yuji out, but after getting hit with a hairpin and getting attacked by the Divine Dogs, Nobara finished Ragzlin off with a Black Flash Resonance, and then we went and freed Halsin, completing the Goblin Camp surprisingly easily. We celebrated our W in camp, Halsin joined the team, and I went ahead and continued on to Grimforge. The near-fight was an intimidating prospect due to their massive numbers advantage and their mind controllers, so I skipped that and went and fought Grim since I knew I could just trick him into getting hammered with Megumi's Shikigami as bait. Problem when I got there, I needed someone who could activate the fight and then get back to safety with some kind of teleport. Enter the absolute goat himself, the smartest man in all of JJK, my bruzza, Aoi Todo. Goto activated the forge, and then used Boogie Woogie to get back to the top so we could start the fight. I replicated Todo's Boogie Woogie with the nomadic step psionic discipline, which allows him to teleport as well as swap places with allies and enemies. It's literally perfect. Fast forward to when we've tricked Grim onto the anvil enough times to take him out, we're now ready to face Nier. Wait, what? No, wait, where are you going? We need to face Nier. We've got to save Barkus. Wait, no, go back. No! Alright, I guess we're doing this now. Well, getting through the Rosemorn Monastery was a breeze because I didn't really engage with anything other than the initial Kobold fight to get into the building. But then it was time to face the Inquisitor, probably one of, if not the hardest boss in Act 1. On Honor Mode, he's got this legendary action where anytime he or his boys get hit, he summons these bitch-ass floating swords, and because he spams that shit, I kept getting overwhelmed. I won't get into specifics yet, but later on in the run, I make use of some really powerful cheater spells from the Cheater Spell Scroll mod to replicate some of the ridiculously powerful attacks from the top tiers of JJK, and I was thinking that this was a desperate times kind of situation, so I was gonna maybe use one of those spells and call in a new guest team member, but I was getting some kind of mod conflict and the cheat spell scroll wasn't appearing in my inventory. I tried to fix it by deleting a mod I thought might be the problem, a mod that was removed from the mod manager, but when I tried to load back my save, I realized I couldn't without that mod downloaded. A mod I couldn't re-download because it was no longer available on the mod manager, meaning I had borked my entire fucking save file. I was so fucking pissed that I not only lost all of my progress, but that I had to remake all those characters I specifically wanted to avoid having to remake anyway. I got the cheat spell working, made a new save file, and just fucking insta-killed my way back to where I had been. It took 6 hours, I basically lost a half a day of work, but it's done now. Fucking whatever, man. So back to the Inquisitor fight. I'm back here once again with the same damn problem, but eventually, after lots of trial and mostly error, I just put everyone's ass to sleep with the Glyph of Warding. Snoozeville, gave him a bunch of honk shoes and mimimis, spiked these fuckers with NyQuil, and while they slept, I beat the ever-living shit out of them. Can't summon no bitch-ass swords if you're dreaming about Mommy Vlaakith, you frog piece of shit. I was able to almost kill a lot of the weaker Gith ads, in addition to also actually nearly taking out the Inquisitor thanks to Megumi's Divine Dogs. And with a final cast of Cloud of Daggers, the Inquisitor and his swords were no more. With that done and the ads cleaned up right after, I got to meet with Sukuna and he's just normal. Huh, not as advertised on TV. Well, we then escape through the secret chamber and head back to Grimforge, not to save poor little Barkus who clung to me like moss to stone, but to head into Act 2. Bye, Barkus! Helping to save the Harpers from the shadows was way easier than my Little Mac run. I'll never forget how much of a roadblock this encounter was for that video. And then the Harpers led me back to the Last Light Inn where I changed up the party's composition a little. To represent one of the coolest team-ups in JJK, we're gonna be replacing Megumi and Nobara with the Grade 1 Jujutsu Sorcerer, Kento Nanami, the GOAT of ratioing people. To represent Nanami's ratio technique, I take a bunch of levels of the Slayer class, a class from Pathfinder that basically mixes Rogue and Ranger, and I get a couple of features that basically boil down to this. I get a special class-specific version of Hunter's Mark called Studied Target, a passive feature that gives me advantage on marked creatures called Quarry, and I have a special class-specific sneak attack. Because Quarry gives me advantage on studied targets, I can now use my Slayer sneak attack, and those three things combined will be our version of Ratio. I also give Nanamin the Justicier's scimitar because it looks the most like his dull machete out of any weapon in the game. For the Isabel encounter, I blocked all the doors with barrels and then proceeded to melt Marcus with Nanami's Ratio, proving his power as a Grade 1 sorcerer. The rest of the people in the inn worked together to take out the remaining winged horrors, and with Isabel safe, I ended up doing the fairly difficult fight against Karnus, where everyone basically spent the entire fight trying to find a way around his sanctuary until we finally beat him, and then we freed Dolly and used her blessing to talk the three Thorms into killing themselves. Yuji's a bit too honest for something like that, but Nanami is 100% practicality. Offing the Thorms really opens up a lot of possibilities here, so I go ahead and head over to Moonrise Tower to save Minthara and the tieflings being held there with the intention to save everyone and lift the Shadow Curse. Minthara gets taken down below, we talk the guards into letting us leave, and then I systematically take out each of the guards one by one with Nanami's ridiculous damage output. The Warden gave us some trouble, but beyond that, we were able to open all the cells and free not only the Tieflings, but also the Iron Hand Gnomes trapped there as well, saving Wulbren and not Barkus. God, I feel bad. This guy sucks! That's pretty much all I wanted to do at Moonrise, so now I'm off to use Malice's loot to wake up Art at the Last Light Inn, tell Halsin about Thaniel, and then help Halsin recover Thaniel in the portal defense section. This was actually a lot easier than I thought it was gonna be, since action economy is our biggest weakness. I of course had to get Megumi and Nobara back, but with Megumi using Chimera Shadow Garden to cloak the portal in darkness, and everyone else using big AoE spells or spell scrolls, we pretty much destroyed the entirety of their forces before they could close the distance and damage the portal, save for a few arrows slipping past here and there. At the end, a lot of shadow guys got really close to the portal, but we had enough people to do solid enough damage to fend them off and allow Halsin to come back. I also walked into Beck's nearby and found out that Danis never returned to her, which I found strange since I freed him from Moonrise, so I made a mental note to try and go and find him. After that, Yuji and Nanami followed up on the Thaniel quest by taking out all of Oliver's shadows, which was pretty damn hard for only 2 people against an army, and 2 melee fighters against kamikaze shadows. But since they all only had 1 HP, I just had Yuji run away and throw a Void Bulb since they dealt 1 force damage and have a massive AoE, so they're able to kill a lot of these little grade 3 cursed spirits in one go. Oliver rejoined Thaniel, so now the only thing stopping us from lifting the curse is Ketheric himself. Also, I went back to Last Light and found Danis just standing around 30 feet away from Bex for some reason, so I picked him up and threw him at Bex, reuniting them at last. Ah, love. I also did the He Who Was quest here since he's close to Oliver's original waypoint, and I already had the journal from dealing with Thisabald. He didn't like me, and even killed me after making my only 2 characters useless with fear, but on our second go at it, Nanami and Yuji eviscerated him like they did to Mahito. With pretty much everything else in the Shadow Curse lands done, I decided to finally head to the Gauntlet of Shar, where I convinced Yrgir to kill all of his friends, his pet, and himself, and then I also decided to kill Balthazar on sight due to his also being kinda like Kenjaku, way more than Ethel really, since he's literally an evil wizard necromancer guy that swaps bodies for longevity. The fight went south really quickly at first, but thanks to an upgraded Nue from Megumi that could set darkness down to blind people, we were actually able to take out Balthazar before he caused too much mayhem, freeing us to defeat the last of the ghouls and flesh with little trouble. Megumi is definitely an MVP for his summons, but it can't be understated how useful Yuji is as a tank and how amazing Nanami is as a DPS. Obviously Nobara's a goat too. Act 1 was basically a highlight reel of her killing every major boss. But Nanami's average of about 50 to 100 damage per round, and Yuji having so much dang health and also dealing decent damage makes this the dream team. Also, Yuji's DPS goes way up later when he gets extra attack, but that'll be more so in Act 3. From there, we use the 1 jewel we have to lower the elevator, use Noct to get past the last door, go to the Shadowfell, and I let Shart free the Night Song. With Daymalen free, it's time to assault Moonrise Tower and defeat Ketheric Thorm once and for all. I used Todo's Boogie Woogie to just teleport us all up to the top, where we face Omni-Man himself. The fight here was pretty hard, but it was really only because of Susdera rather than Ketheric. Nanami could get Ketheric to run away in, like, a single turn, but Susdera with her Fireball did too much damage across too big of an AoE, so the winning strat was really just focusing her and the Necromites down while letting Nanami solo Ketheric. The only things I did in the Mind Flayer colony were saving us, saving Mizora, and saving Zevlor, and while saving Mizora required me to kill an Abishai, saving Zevlor and dealing with all the Mind Flayers there was definitely a little harder. Luckily we get this long rest thing before facing Ketheric, and after convincing him to rope neck himself by persuading him to be a better person, kinda tough honestly, we've gotta face our first special grade cursed spirit, Merkel. We had the whole team on deck for this one, but as you can imagine, it was still pretty tough. From the offset, the biggest problems were the Mind Flayer and Merkle, specifically Merkle for his massive damage and of course his Bone Chill preventing healing, and while I tried to counter Merkle's attacks with Chimera Shadow Garden to blind him, unfortunately with the continuously spawning Necromites in addition to the Intellect Devourers and the Mind Flayer, we ended up outnumbered and outgunned even with Megumi's Divine Dogs and his Great Serpent and Nanami's ratio damage, so it was a total loss. I tried and failed a couple of times to beat him before realizing that a special grade Curse Spirit calls for a special grade Sorcerer. We needed the strongest. With Satoru Gojo on the team, things went exorbitantly better. We had a casualty with Todo pretty early on, but with Megumi and Nobara on ad duty, Yuji and Nanami fighting Merkle, and Gojo using blue to teleport around the map and either land massive damage on Merkle or destroy ads, things were going awesome. Gojo really couldn't be attacked because of the dozens of spells and abilities that prevented him from being targeted, that boosted his AC, or that made attacks against him rolled at disadvantage, i.e. because of his infinity, and he could also heal people with his reverse curse technique, which definitely made things significantly easier, though sadly he couldn't do anything for Todo, who'd already died. He healed himself on the verge of death against Toji, but that doesn't mean he can revive someone, just heal them up from anything short of death, as we see in his final battle against Sukuna, where he's literally healing himself of massive brain damage from spamming his domain in real time. Gojo also significantly helped against Merkle by spamming his domain expansion, Unlimited Void. With a spell called Witness Infinity, he was able to flood Merkle's mind with infinite knowledge, dealing 1d20 psychic damage and incapacitating Merkle for a round, and as you can imagine, putting the main boss out of commission for a round even semi-consistently was a game changer. Yuji and Nanami were smashing the shit out of Merkle, and then Nanami would use one of his Slayer bonus actions to disengage to get out of Merkle's attack range. Yuji couldn't do that, but with Merkle incapacitated half the time, blinded most of the time, and just generally having a hard time getting past Yuji's AC, Yuji was fine to tank until Gojo could swing by and heal him. Finally, after keeping the Necromites at bay and whittling down Merkle's nearly 400 HP, Gojo finished him off with 2 reds. With that special grade Cursed Spirit eliminated, we all catch up with new friends and allies, and then we're finally off to Act 3. After Yuji, Todo, and Gojo beat the Gith Orpheus Honor Guard, they find out that Sukuna is secretly a Mind Flayer, which kinda makes more sense than the real Sukuna being nice, honestly, and we turn down his Wiggly. The Iron Hand Gnomes get us into Baldur's Gate proper, Todo and Yuji gave these Guild and Stone Lord dudes the Hanami treatment, while Gojo occasionally popped in and trolled them, and then, after meeting with Gortash, I went down to the Worm's Rock basement and took on probably the second hardest boss in the game behind Raphael, Ansur. For a lot of the powerful Act 3 bosses, the kitty gloves came off. This wasn't a job for Yuji and his little friends. We called out the heavy hitters. The strongest sorcerer in modern times, Satoru Gojo, the strongest sorcerer in history, Ryomen Sukuna, and the 8-grip sword Divergent Sila Divine General Mahoraga. Big Raga the Opstoppa is immune to whatever elemental damage type I pick, so I just make him immune to lightning damage and send him in swinging, and I already knew what Sukuna's role was gonna be. As Gojo and Mahoraga went to bat against Ansur, Sukuna used Cleave, a mystic ability called Bestial Claw that let him slash people with an unarmed attack, and Dismantle, a different mystic ability that allowed him to cut people at range with wind, to cut up Ansur, and, more importantly, the rubble and debris around him. With all the dust in the air, Sukuna activated the Divine Flame. Ansur was felled by a blast that rivaled the power of a thermobaric nuclear bomb. With that glorious victory under our belts, we then headed over to Rameth's tower to save Roland with the help of Dame Aelin and Roland himself. This fight was actually uber easy in comparison. Gojo definitely put in work for sure, but Yuji and Todo did a pretty dang good job beating on the Myrmidon so that Lorroakan couldn't use Elemental Retort. Roland shoved Lorroakan over a rail to a 40-foot drop, absolutely based. And from there, finishing him off was child's play. I was especially happy with Todo so effectively using Boogie Woogie here. Great fight and got the W without relying on Mahoraga or Sukuna. With Roland saved, I actually moved on to doing the Act 3 Auntie Ethel quest. I've beaten this game a couple of times at this point, but I've never actually done this quest at all. Yuji and Todo fought all of our Red Cap minions earnestly as per normal, and also as per normal, Gojo just teleported around and used his cool moves to just absolutely dog on these poor creatures. The actual final fight against Ethel took some figuring out. None of my party did enough damage to take out her healing mushrooms before they regenerated 100 HP every round. So I decided to use Sukuna, but then I accidentally nuked Ethel while she still had Vanra in her stomach, ergo nuking Vanra as well. Nuking a child, I'm pretty sure that's a war crime. Finally on the rollback, I got someone to release Vanra with Hagsbane first before using Divine Flame on Auntie Ethel and all of her regen shrooms. With really only 3 optional bosses left, I decided to go for the easiest fight of the 3. Cazador's Czar. All I did was cast Daylight on him, which damages him and prevents him from healing, and then I had Yuji and Todo fight all the ads on the staircase, at which point I used Gojo's Red to launch everyone off of the staircase to their instantaneous deaths. Like I said, pretty dang easy. At this point, we could do Viconia, but I honestly just wanted to get Raphael out of the way. If I could beat Raphael, I could beat anyone in Act 3. With Sukuna here to use Divine Flame, while Raph is immune to the actual fire of the flame, he's not immune to the force created by the nuclear bomb blast. So the hardest thing about this fight was positioning everyone so that Raph and his guys died, while at the very least Hope wasn't in range of the blast. Eventually I got it right, and after everyone else finished off the remaining Cambions, Hope got her house back, and we set out for the House of Grief to defeat Viconia and her Sharan Cloister. Yuji and Todo did a good enough job at just straight up fighting everyone, but Yuji definitely ended up outlasting Todo due to higher AC and more health. The name of the game here was really all on Gojo. His AoE attacks like Maximum Output Blue and Hollow Purple really helped to not only attack and damage big swaths of Sharans, but also to group them all together. Gojo was so overconfident as per usual, his goofy ass was sitting down and posing between rounds. Also something kind of funny, some of the NPC's AI broke during the fight, so half of them were just passing their turns the whole time, just like that Raphael fight in the Simon and Richter Belmont run. First Viconia bit it, and then the rest of her goobers shortly followed. With that, we set free Shart's parents, and it was now time to move on to the final 3 bosses of the game, starting with freeing the Gondian hostages in the Iron Throne as part of Gortash's quest. I wasn't able to save everyone, but saving 90% of the hostages was a breeze thanks to Gojo's blue teleporting him around and freeing the prisoners, and Todo's Boogie Woogie helping us to teleport the hostages to the entrance. Todo also got Duke Ravengard out of Mizora's trap by swapping places with him, which was probably one of the most absolutely goated uses of this ability in the entire run. In another Goto moment right after, Todo uses Boogie Woogie to swap places with Volo to save him from the bombs these baddies strapped to him. Common Todo W, honestly. I tried to save as many Gondian engineers as possible, which is ironic because the ones in the first room hated me to the point of not wanting to talk to me until I gave them 300 bucks. And while I saved everyone on the first floor, we did have some losses on the second floor down due to the powerful Hellfire Steel Watchers we had to deal with. Things are fucking tough. Oh look, here's 3 more and a Mega Uber Super one. For the most part, this fight was actually pretty simple. Yuji and Todo beat up a Steel Watcher, Gojo comes through and does some cracked shit, Gojo uses our CT to heal everyone, and rinse and repeat. We were able to take out all 3 Watchers, no problem. The Titan, however, had a big issue. Nobody could break through his defense form bullshit, and I missed my only Bone Chill scroll to stop him from healing. My only recourse here was to use, a red attack from Gojo, or something. Definitely not just enough of this super bullshit overpowered spell to knock out his super bullshit overpowered shield so that we could square up fair and square. Yeah. Anyway, then he blew himself up and we blew up the factory. Wolverine was an asshole as always, and though we convinced him to fuck off and leave the Gondians alone, it was honestly pretty sad not being able to put his ass in his place with Barkis's help. Shit sucked. The Gortash fight was super disappointing, so I'm just gonna give the highlights and move on. I thought it'd be cool to not just destroy him instantly with the Divine Flame, so instead I tried to use maximum output blue before combat, which was pretty effective, but his Tyrant form makes him straight up immune to all of our damage types. I could have left and grabbed Sukuna, but I was honestly just too lazy, and if I remember correctly, he might have been immune to both of Divine Flame's damage types anyway, so I was experimenting with some potential means of beating him, starting with taking out his turrets and adds, and just as a fun, stupid little joke, I was gonna say Kashimo gave us an assist with the stupid cheater ultimate lightning spell bullshit, but when I used it, it literally killed everyone in the room save for Yuji, and then the game automatically saved. Fuck, man, I don't know what I was gonna do there, but I didn't want it to end like that. The Kashimo thing was supposed to be a joke. I was gonna reload, but now I can't because the game fucking saved. Lame. Moving on, the Sarevok fight was way cooler. Sukuna rolled up and called him a loser. Gojo rolled up and hit the murder tribunal with a red, and then stole their damn thrones right in front of them. Sukuna tried to use Dismantle, but got counterspelled. Mahoraga used the Sword of Extermination, the Blood of Lathandar, to beat on Sarevok. It was awesome. After Gojo dropped one of the murder tribunal and Sukuna dismantled some rubble while Mahoraga continued to wail on Sarevok, eventually, Gojo and Mahoraga finished off the tribunal, and Sukuna had cleaved and dismantled enough for a Divine Flame explosion, immediately evaporating Sarevok off the face of Faerun. Awesome. Fucking sick. After making my way to Baal's temple, it was finally time for another awesome fight, one I've never actually done before. The Baalspawn 1v1 duel, the Queen of Murder versus Murder's progeny. I tried to play it completely straight without RCT, but she fucking vaporizes me in a fair fight. So since Yuji does have RCT in the Sukuna fight, just not as good as Gojo's, I used Gojo's RCT to keep Yuji alive round to round. I started off with Yuji's blood manipulation convergence piercing blood that he got from Choso, and from there it was all hands. In the final battle against Sukuna, Yuji unlocks his curse technique. Due to Sukuna imprinting on his soul, his curse technique is basically shrine like Sukuna, except rather than having cleave and dismantle, Yuji's punches at this point have gained the property of being able to attack one's soul, so he has a cleave for a person's physical body, and a cleave for their soul. To represent this, like Sukuna, I was out here spamming level 5 Bestial Claw for cleave, but for the soul cleave, I spammed Upcasted Inflict Wound, a touch spell that deals necrotic damage like it's damaging your very life essence. Orin was a fucking monster. She hit so fucking hard that, even while getting fully healed every round, she still nearly killed me every single time. It legitimately felt like the final battle between Yuji and Sukuna. There was one point where she dropped me from my full health of 119 to 18 HP. Fucking 101 damage in a single round. Also, she fucking missed an attack. She could have straight up one-rounded me. Eventually, after cleaving her body and her soul to ribbons, Yuji reigned victorious. My only regret is that I never got a chance to use either Gojo's Unlimited Hollow Purple or Yuji's Domain Expansion, since both required me to get to 20th level, and by the end of the run, I had only gotten to 15th level. It definitely would have been cool to finish Orin off with Domain Expansion like Yuji did to Sukuna. In an awesome twist, after the fight that could have basically served as the surrogate for the final Yuji vs Sukuna fight in this run, we also reject Baal and die, only to get revived free of the Dark Urge. It's literally like how Yuji was now free of Sukuna after defeating him. Super happy with the way things lined up. It's really cool to me how you can draw so many parallels to this run's source material here. With only one last fight ahead of us, I get the whole cast on one super dream team, and then we set off to save the world of Jujutsu Sorcery, and maybe even the world at large. It's time to take on the result of the Great Merger. First things first, I succeeded on all the Netherstone checks with my godly 11 inspiration, and for the first time ever, we betray the evil manipulative Emperor to free Orpheus. Together with the Comet Prince and all of our allies at our backs, our Jujutsu Sorcerers made it to the top of the brain, Sukuna Divine Flamed the Emperor's traitor ass, and we summoned in all of our allies to fight the Remnants, all while Orpheus got us all into the brain, I guess. Nobara was the first one to make it in, and she started by getting into position. Following her, Yuji blitzed in and landed 2 consecutive black flashes and pummeled the brain. Mahoraga also ran up and attempted an attack with his Sword of Extermination, but he missed. The brain then made itself immune to bludgeoning, psychic, and force damage, but luckily Nanami deals slashing damage and hit it for a whopping 60 damage with a single ratio strike. Sukuna entered after and immediately used Malevolent Shrine and Cleave to cut up the brain, and following that, Gojo finally arrived and tried to use Command Halt, but to no avail. Todo used Boogie Woogie to swap places with Gojo and tried to land a Black Flash, but unfortunately the brain was immune to the damage. Megumi, however, summoned his Divine Dogs, but they'd unfortunately end up getting annihilated before they got a chance to attack. Back to Nobara, she lands an absolutely devastating Black Flash Resonance, Yuji uses Soul Cleave, Mahoraga continues to wail on the Cursed Spirit with the Sword of Extermination, Nanami does a little bit of psychic damage on the brain with a special Sword Strike, Sukuna starts boxing the shit out of the brain and drops it to a single hit point, and finally, to finish off this Cursed Spirit abomination, the strongest, Satoru Gojo, uses one final move.
Kyoshiki Murasaki.
With that, the Great Merger is defeated, Baldur's Gate is saved, the people of the city defeat the remaining Mind Flayers, Lae'zel becomes the new Orpheus while phasing through Todo, I have to mercy kill Orpheus while phasing through my bruzza Todo, all the OG companions get their immediate endings, and we all celebrate our victory in the epilogue. We did it! Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to be on the lookout for the next Baldur's Gate 3 run, where the Knights of Gwyn try to save the people of Faerun from a threat more malicious than the dragons, more dangerous than the Chaos Demons, and more insidious than even the Abyss, and all for the glory of Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight. See you guys next time. Peace.